I'm Chef Susan Odell and welcome to the Foodell Kitchen. Whenever you make any dish that has a sauce, be it a stew or maybe a gravy for your turkey dinner, you might need to thicken that sauce. And so we're going to look at 4 different methods of thickening to make your sauce nice and creamy rather than runny. Our 4 methods are a reduction technique where it just boils away into the atmosphere. We've also got some cornstarch or arrowroot that we would mix with water. We've got something called a beurre manie, which is a kneaded butter. It's equal parts butter and flour that you add to the sauce directly. And then finally a roux, R-O-U-X, roux, which is butter and flour that you cook and then add your liquid to that. So let's have a look, first of all, starting with the reduction method. So the reduction method is simply that. You are reducing your liquid to concentrate the flavors and make it thicker. A lot of recipes will say reduce it by 1/3, and that's really hard to judge by just looking in the pan. So what I like to do is use a wooden spoon. I put it in my liquid and I see where it reaches. I watch for the line on the wooden spoon, and I know that that liquid right now comes up to about here. If I want to reduce it by 1/3, I want to wait until now my line comes to here. So I'm going to test it again in 5 minutes or so and see how far down the spoon it's gotten. When it gets to 1/3 reduced, I know I'm finished and I can turn it off. So another thickening method is using cornstarch or arrowroot or even potato starch to thicken your sauce. You always want to dissolve it first in a little bit of water. So I just want to whisk as I add my cold water to my cornstarch and just get it nicely incorporated, preferably without any lumps. Once it cooks in the liquid, the lumps will go away also. Now it's ready to be added to my dish. So I'm just using some vegetable stock as an example here, but when you add your cornstarch and your water to any kind of sauce, it's typically used in stir fries and the like. See how much it just naturally, automatically thickens that sauce. It's a great, quick way to thicken. You just need to cook it a little bit to get rid of any chalky flavor that might exist after you add the cornstarch. Instant gravy. If you want a little bit richer sauce and don't mind adding butter to it, beurre manie is also a good method of thickening an existing sauce. It's equal parts butter and flour. It's also called kneaded flour. So I have a tablespoon of unsalted butter and a tablespoon of just unbleached white flour. I'm just going to use a fork to mash it together. You can also use your fingers if it's easier. All you want to do is incorporate the flour into the butter. This helps protect the flour so when you add it to your sauce, you don't get a real floury flavor, which you can get if you just dumped a tablespoon of flour directly into your sauce. Once your flour is well incorporated in the butter, now we're going to add it in small increments to the sauce to give it a nice thickening agent. So I want this on low heat, and again, I'm just using my vegetable stock as an example for a sauce. You want to add it in small increments. This is the flour and butter, and whisk while you add. You want to get this fully incorporated before you add more. Once you can see that all the butter is melted, you can add another little dollop and continue going until your sauce is as thick as you want it. This is a great method for thickening gravy that you've already made that's just not quite as thick as you want, but you're about ready to serve. It's also a great method for thickening the sauce from a stew that's been cooking in the oven for a long time. You're ready to serve, but you just want a little more consistency in the sauce. Try the beurre manie method. The final thickening method is the roux, R-O-U-X, not like kanga, but a different kind of a roux. It's always equal parts fat, in this case I'm using butter, and flour. Let's have a look at how it all comes together. So I've already got my sauce, my vegetable stock in this case, and it's set aside. I want to start this thickening process by adding my butter to the pan and melting it. Once your butter is melted and is frothy and bubbly, you want to add equal parts flour. Now you want to stir and use a nice whisk to incorporate these. Raw flour leaves a flavor in your sauce, so you want to cook it a little bit. I just want to get it to where the flour is nicely incorporated in the butter so I don't get that floury taste when I add my liquid to it. You can keep cooking a roux and it'll turn brown eventually, and that's the basis for some Louisiana and Creole dishes like gumbo. But today we're just going to leave it blonde, a white roux, meaning we're not going to brown the flour. Once it's bubbly and cooked and I can smell that butter delicious, I'm going to add my liquid. I find it easier to turn off the heat and then add my liquid, in this case my vegetable stock, and just stir continuously with my whisk. I'm less likely to have lumps if I take it off the heat first. Once that's nicely incorporated, I turn the heat back on over pretty much low heat, medium low, and I continue to whisk and stir until it thickens. This will take about 3 to 5 minutes for this quantity that I'm doing. So I've been cooking and stirring for about 3 minutes, and look at that delightfully thick, rich gravy that we've got compared to the original liquid that I started with, just my vegetable stock. This is the beginnings of a delicious Thanksgiving gravy. Understanding the terminology in recipes is important. So if a recipe calls for a reduction or to reduce your liquid or to thicken it with cornstarch, now you know what we're talking about. But also it's important for you to be able to fix things or make things better by understanding how you can thicken your sauces through all these different methods. Bon appetit. And 2 tablespoons of water. Sorry, we'll do that again.